Conversation in the office, and welcome to your family and all the first graders in Connecticut. Let me begin, Mr. Chairman, by expressing my amazement, I think shared by millions of Americans, that we have a president who ran for president and perhaps won the election by saying that he was a champion of the working class of America. He said that he would not cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, but you know what? He appointed his key advisors, people like Representative Mulvaney and Representative Price, who spent their entire careers trying to do exactly that. He said that he would, quote, drain the swamp, but he now has more billionaires in his administration than any president in American history. He said he would provide, quote, health insurance for everybody, but he just supported an embarrassingly disastrous health care proposal that would have thrown 24 million people off of health insurance. He said he was, quote, going to stop Wall Street from getting away with murder. But he has drained half of Goldman Sachs into his administration. In other words, he ran for president saying one thing, and he ended up doing something exactly the opposite, which brings us to Dr. Gottlieb. Candidate Trump, and in fact President Trump, after he was elected, made some very important and, in my view, correct statements about the outrageously high prices that we pay for prescription drugs in this country. And I must say, Mr. Chairman, that if you go out to the American people and you ask them the most important issue that concerns them in health care, you know what it will be? It is the fact that we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, an issue which has not yet been even mentioned in this hearing, the fact that almost 1 out of 5 adults in this country who get a prescription from their doctor cannot afford to fill that prescription, the fact that in my state, and I expect in Tennessee, you have senior citizens who are cutting their medicine in half. We have heard from oncologists and other doctors that people are dying, their patients are dying because they cannot afford the outrageously high prices of prescription drugs. And you know what? Trump talked about that, and he was right. But now, as Senator Murray indicated, he nominates somebody who has received millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry. According to the New York Times, he has received more than $150,000 in compensation from Vertex Pharmaceutical, a company that is charging more than $250,000 a year for drugs to treat cystic fibrosis. Even more interestingly, Trump runs for office and he says, look, there are, among other things, 2 ways that we can deal with the high cost of prescription drugs. We should be able to re-import lower-cost prescription drugs from Canada and other countries. We should be able to negotiate prices with Medicare. And yet, Dr. Gottlieb writes an op-ed for Forbes in which he directly contradicts what Trump has to say about reimportation. That was the thrust of his op-ed. So I asked Dr. Gottlieb, why would President Trump appoint somebody to the very important position of head of the FDA whose views run diametrically opposite to what he said during the campaign? Do you support, as Trump does, the reimportation of low-cost medicine from Canada and from other countries, allowing Americans to save significant sums of money on the medicine they need?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I obviously can't speak to why the President of the United States nominated me for this role. I can tell you, as we discussed in your office, I have a lot of ideas that I want to work on right away for how I think we can get more product competition onto the market. You and I talked about the fact that many complex drugs have monopolies effectively in perpetuity because of the...
I apologize for having to interrupt you. I have very little time left. Quote from your article in Forbes: the problem is that drug importation doesn't address any of these core challenges. In fact, the imported drugs may end up being quite expensive. That's fine. That is your opinion. Happens not to be the opinion of the guy you will be working with. And I just find it amazing that Trump says something during the campaign and then appoints people who have radically different ideas. What's your view on the need for Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry.
Senator, it's true. I've written a lot of things on a lot of different subjects, including issues around Medicare. I think I'm coming before you for the position at FDA, and I'm going to get asked for my position on a lot of different subjects that fall outside FDA's purview, and I think I would do the agency I hope to lead no favors by wading into other territory.
Dr. Gottlieb, as you are more than aware, part of the FDA's mission is to make medicines, quote, this is the FDA mission, not Bernie Sanders' idea, quote, more effective, safer, and more affordable, end of quote. That is within the jurisdiction of the FDA.
And that's my goal, Senator.
All right. But your goal is, from what I'm hearing, you oppose the ideas that President Trump told he was going to do to for the American people. Sounds a little bit strange to me, Mr. Chairman.